The kingdom of Velmoria was renowned for its breathtaking landscapes, towering castles, and lavish traditions. Its people prided themselves on elegance and beauty, believing that physical perfection was a mark of status. Women adorned themselves with luxurious gowns, intricate hairstyles, and dazzling jewels, for in this kingdom, beauty was power. Each year, the royal family hosted a grand ball, an event where noble and common women alike could present themselves before the prince. This year's ball was particularly significant. The young Prince Ronan was to choose his future bride. The entire kingdom buzzed with excitement as families prepared their daughters, each hoping she would be the one to capture the prince's heart. Amidst this glittering world lived Alya, a girl unlike the rest. She was kind-hearted and intelligent, but her baldness made her an outcast. Born with a rare condition that left her without hair, she was often the subject of cruel laughter and whispers. Children pointed at her, noblewomen turned away in disgust, and even her own stepmother and stepsisters regarded her as an embarrassment. Despite the taunts, Alya carried herself with quiet strength, never allowing their words to break her spirit. But deep down, she longed to be seen for who she truly was. From the moment Alya was old enough to understand, she knew she was different. While other girls braided their long flowing hair, she had none. Her scalp, smooth and bare, became the reason for endless whispers and cruel stares. It wasn't an illness that made her this way, but a rare condition that left her without a single strand of hair. In Velmoria, where beauty was a woman's greatest asset, Alya was seen as flawed, an imperfection in a world that worshipped perfection. The noble ladies sneered when she passed, covering their mouths as they murmured insults. "She looks cursed," some would say. "A girl without hair is no girl at all," others mocked. Commoners, though less vocal, still avoided her gaze, treating her as though misfortune would spread from her presence. She had grown used to the whispers, but they still stung like sharp needles against her heart. At home, life was no kinder. Her stepmother, Lady Alyra, a woman obsessed with status, saw Alya as a disgrace. "Cover your head when we have guests," she would hiss. "You bring shame to this household." Her stepsisters, Liana and Morel, delighted in tormenting her. They would brush their golden curls in front of her, smirking as they exaggerated their beauty. "Maybe if you wear a wig, someone might mistake you for a real lady," Liana would say with a cruel laugh. Despite the endless taunts and isolation, Alya refused to let bitterness consume her. She found solace in books, losing herself in tales of courageous heroines and adventures beyond the kingdom's walls. When the weight of the world grew too heavy, she sought comfort in nature, wandering through the forest where the trees did not judge and the wind did not whisper cruel words. She often spoke to the birds, who never mocked her appearance, and ran her fingers over the petals of wildflowers, imagining that one day someone might see her as something more than just a girl without hair. Even as her heart ached from the cruelty of others, she clung to the belief that she was more than their words. Perhaps, somewhere in the world, there was someone who would see beyond her baldness and recognize the light within her. The entire kingdom of Velmoria was set abuzz with excitement when the royal decree was announced. The king had declared that Prince Ronan would choose his future bride at the upcoming grand ball. It was an event of unmatched prestige, where noble and common-born ladies alike could present themselves before the prince in hopes of winning his favour. For many, this was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to rise in status secure wealth, and, most importantly, win the heart of the kingdom's most sought-after man. Within days, the kingdom was consumed by preparations. Dressmakers worked tirelessly, crafting gowns adorned with shimmering jewels and flowing silks. Perfumes and cosmetics were purchased in abundance, and countless young women spent hours perfecting their looks. Conversations were filled with discussions of fashion, charm, and strategies to capture the prince's attention. In Alya's home, her stepsisters were no exception. Lyanna and Morel fussed over their dresses, arguing about who would look more radiant. Their mother, Lady Alyra, ensured they had the finest accessories, determined to elevate her daughters above the rest. However, when Alya expressed her desire to attend, her stepmother's expression turned cold. "You," Lady Alyra scoffed. "A girl like you has no place at a royal ball." Lyanna smirked. "Can you imagine what people would say? A bold girl trying to impress the prince? It would be humiliating." Morel added with a laugh, "Maybe you could hide behind a curtain and watch from afar." Lady Alyra silenced them with a sharp glare before turning to Alya. "You will not go. I won't have you embarrassing this family." Alya lowered her gaze, her heart sinking. Once again, she was being reminded that, in their eyes, she would never be worthy. Heartbroken yet unwilling to let go of hope, Alya wandered into the forest, her only refuge from the cruelty of her home. The trees stood tall around her, their whispering leaves offering comfort she could find nowhere else. She walked until she reached a small clearing where an old woman sat by a bubbling stream, grinding herbs with practiced hands. The woman looked up as Alya approached, her eyes wise and knowing. "You carry a heavy burden, child," she said, her voice gentle yet strong. "Why do you weep?" Alya hesitated, but something about the woman felt safe. "I only wish to be seen for who I am," she admitted, "but all they see is what I lack." The old woman studied her for a long moment, then reached into a small satchel at her side. "Beauty is not in hair or jewels," she said, pulling out a shimmering gown unlike any Alya had ever seen. "It is in the heart. Wear this and let them see the light within you." Alya touched the fabric, feeling warmth spread through her fingertips. But how can a dress change anything? The woman smiled. "It is not the dress that changes you. It is you who must believe in your own worth. Confidence and kindness make you shine brighter than any jewel." With newfound determination, Alya clutched the dress and hurried back home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she slipped into the gown, its soft golden hue making her skin glow. No lavish hairstyle or expensive ornaments adorned her, yet she felt radiant for the first time in her life. Ignoring her stepmother's commands and her stepsister's laughter, Alya steeled her heart and made her way to the palace. She would not hide in the shadows any longer. Tonight, she would step into the light. The palace shimmered like a dream, its grand halls glowing under golden chandeliers. Music floated through the air as elegantly dressed women twirled in dazzling gowns, their laughter a melody of competition and ambition. Every eye was fixed on Prince Ronan, who stood at the top of the grand staircase, watching as potential brides vied for his attention. Women of noble birth and common descent alike had spared no expense to appear at their most beautiful. Their hair was sculpted into elaborate styles, adorned with pearls and jewels that glittered with every movement. They batted their lashes, whispered carefully rehearsed words, and executed flawless curtsies, each one determined to outshine the others. Then, amidst the sea of perfection, Alya entered. She was unlike anyone there. The golden gown she wore shimmered softly, its simple elegance drawing attention not through excess, but through grace. Without long curls or jeweled ornaments, she stood boldly in her own skin, bald, bare, yet breathtaking. As she walked forward, a hush fell over the crowd, followed swiftly by muffled giggles and sneers. "Who let her in?" one woman whispered behind a jeweled fan. "A servant, perhaps," another snickered. "She thinks she can win the prince looking like that." Lyanna and Mirel smirked from the side, enjoying the spectacle. But Alya did not shrink away. Instead of lowering her head in shame, she held it high, her eyes glowing with quiet confidence. She moved across the ballroom with the grace of a queen, unaffected by the cruel whispers that tried to tear her down. Prince Ronan, who had grown weary of the endless parade of women trying too hard to impress him, noticed her immediately. There was something captivating about the way she carried herself, unapologetic, proud, real. While others had adorned themselves with gold and jewels, Alya had nothing but her own strength, and yet she shone the brightest. Prince Ronan had seen many beautiful women that night, but none had captured his attention the way Alya did. She did not beg for his gaze, nor did she try to charm him with false sweetness. Instead, she stood with quiet confidence, radiating a strength that was rare among the women who had spent the evening vying for his affection. Intrigued, he stepped forward, offering his hand. "May I have this dance?" he asked, his voice warm and genuine. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. "Alya, the bald girl?" The noblewomen exchanged shocked glances while Lyanna and Mirel nearly choked on their drinks. Alya hesitated, but when she looked into the prince's eyes, she saw no pity, only curiosity and admiration. With a small smile, she placed her hand in his, and they stepped onto the dance floor. The music began, and the two moved gracefully, Alya's golden gown flowing around her like sunlight. As they danced, Ronan spoke softly. "You are unlike anyone I have met tonight. You do not seek to impress, yet you leave the strongest impression." Alya met his gaze. "I have learned that trying to fit into a mold that was never made for me is a battle I will never win." The prince smiled. Perhaps the mold itself is flawed. Their conversation was cut short by a loud scoff. One of the noblewomen, unable to contain herself, stepped forward. "Your Highness, surely you jest. She is bald." Lyanna laughed, her voice dripping with mockery. "How can someone like her stand beside a prince?" Mirel smirked. "A future queen should be beautiful." Silence fell over the ballroom, but Prince Ronan's expression darkened. He released Alya's hand and turned to the crowd. "Tell me," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. "Do you believe beauty is merely hair and jewels?" The women hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. Ronan continued, his gaze sweeping across them. "True beauty is not found in appearances. It is found in kindness, in strength, in the courage to stand tall when the world tries to push you down." He turned back to Alya and smiled. "And I see no one in this room who possesses more beauty than she does." Alya's breath caught in her throat. The murmurs in the room faded as Ronan extended his hand once more. The message was clear. He had made his choice. The ballroom was deathly silent as Prince Ronan stood beside Alya, his choice clear for all to see. The noble women who had spent the night flaunting their beauty stood frozen, their carefully crafted smiles fading into disbelief. The whispers began almost immediately, rippling through the crowd like a storm. The prince chose her? A girl with no hair? A future queen? Lyanna and Mirel looked as though they had swallowed bitter lemons. Their faces burned with embarrassment, their laughter from earlier now replaced with horror. Lady Alyra, who had spent years ensuring her daughters were the perfect image of nobility, could barely contain her fury. "This must be a mistake," she hissed under her breath. "There's no way he would—" But he had. As the realization set in, Alya's former tormentors felt an unfamiliar sensation: shame. The girls who had mocked her for years now stood in stunned silence. The noblewomen who had whispered cruel words suddenly avoided her gaze. The commoners who had once sneered at her in the streets now murmured to one another, questioning their own shallow judgments. Perhaps they had been wrong. Perhaps beauty was not what they had always believed it to be. At the far end of the ballroom, the king, a man of tradition and discipline, watched the scene unfold. He had expected his son to choose a woman of high status, someone who fit the kingdom's ideal of beauty. And yet, as he observed Alya, the way she held herself with quiet dignity, the way her presence had changed the very atmosphere of the room, he could not deny that she was extraordinary. Stepping forward, the king addressed his son. "You have made an unusual choice," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. Then, after a pause, he nodded. "But perhaps it is the right one." Alya's heart pounded as she lowered herself into a respectful bow. When she straightened, the king's eyes held something she had never expected to see: approval. With the king's blessing, the whispers in the room died down. The people who had once scorned Alya now looked at her with a new perspective. She had defied their expectations. She had won the heart of a prince, not with beauty, but with the strength of her spirit. Lady Alyra and her daughters, humiliated beyond words, could only watch as Alya stood beside Prince Ronan, her head held high. She had once been an outcast, but now she was destined to be a queen. The wedding of Prince Ronan and Alya was unlike any the kingdom had ever seen. Where past royal weddings had been defined by wealth and grandeur, this one was defined by something far more powerful: love. Velmoria's citizens gathered in awe as Alya, dressed in an elegant gown of soft gold and ivory, walked down the aisle. No jeweled crown adorned her head, no veil concealed her face. She stood proudly, her baldness no longer a mark of shame, but of resilience. The people who had once mocked her now watched in admiration, realizing how wrong they had been. When the vows were spoken, Ronan took her hands and said, "I chose you not because of how you look, but because of who you are. You are strong, kind, and unshaken by the cruelty of others. That is the kind of queen this kingdom needs." Alya's eyes glistened as she replied, "And I choose you, not because you are a prince, but because you saw me when no one else did." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the crowd erupted in cheers, not just for their prince, but for the woman who had defied every expectation and won the hearts of the people. In the months that followed, Alya proved to be more than just a queen. She became a symbol of hope. She dedicated herself to helping those who had been outcast, ensuring that no one was judged by their appearance. She opened schools for young girls, teaching them that their worth was not tied to beauty, but to their minds and hearts. Slowly, the kingdom of Velmoria changed. Noble women who had once obsessed over perfection began to value kindness over vanity. The whispers of cruelty faded, replaced by admiration for a queen who had taught them the true meaning of beauty. As the years passed, Alya and Ronan ruled together with wisdom and compassion. Their love remained as strong as the day they first danced in the palace ballroom, a testament to the idea that real love transcends appearances. And so, the girl once mocked for being different became the most beloved queen Velmoria had ever known. not because of her looks, but because of the light she carried within her. The kingdom had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. True beauty shines from within.